Shall we begin?
You're breaking up, Bob.
You're breaking up.
Play around with a bad football team, bad things happen.
You're listening to 9 to Noon.
Hold on to your butts.
Personal foul. Clipping.
Oh my God!
Thank you.
Got to be careful with Johnny Pecker.
Double doink.
I mean, pick your poison with that defense.
Just listen. Just listen.
9 to Noon.
Hey, what's up, KFAN? It's 84, man. Y'all stay tuned live for the hottest man in the world, PA, Paul Allen. Yes, sir.
Welcome to the Covenant, as in the love covenant. Indeed, it is Paul Allen. Nordo produces. Kevin OConnell coaches the Minnesota Vikings. JJ McCarthy threw footballs for the Michigan Wolverines. And Kevin OConnell, 9 to Noon yesterday, said this about said slinger.
You know, I see a guy that, maybe he didn't have the type of volume, PA, that some of the other guys in the draft had as throwers. And I think that's kind of been talked about a lot, but I don't know how valid that is, just because some of the other volume of attempts that you see from other players in the draft, they might just be bubble screens and RPOs and just kind of spitting the ball out as extensions of the run game. So really, when you start talking about something beyond the stat sheet, beyond the box score, I think you can dive into the tape and see some things that JJ McCarthy did that maybe some of the other guys in the draft didn't do. He did play under center. He did play in a world where he was part of a strong run game that they tried to marry the run and the pass with play action and keepers. And then I think when you turn on JJ's third down tape, you see some pretty high level production. And what does that normally lead to? Winning football games. When you run the football and you have a quarterback that can execute at a high level on third down, you sustain drives, you have a chance to push the ball into the opponent's side of the field and eventually down into the red zone where you hope to come away with touchdowns and not field goals. But JJ's got some really strong tape. He clearly has a makeup of a guy that's won a national championship. I think he's lost, I don't know what the exact number is, maybe 3 games since he was about 12 years old. So this guy's a winner. There's a lot to really continue to dive into on a prospect like JJ. Looking forward to spending some time with him over the next few days and really getting to know him, but also importantly letting him get to know us and what potentially, just like some of the other quarterbacks, hopefully get a feel for is that if my name gets called by the Minnesota Vikings, that's a really positive thing for me based upon the play caller, the head coach, the offensive weapons, the offensive staff. Brian Flores coaching the defense with some really good players on that side of the ball. And, oh, by the way, the best fan base in the National Football League.
Everybody ready now? High-level third down performance. Unlike many in the NFL draft, comfortable playing under center. High-level performance in big spots, big situations, big games against defenses with players heading to the National Football League a month from tomorrow, and cold-blooded connections. As Kevin just said, that leads to winning football and winning football games. We didn't really unpack yesterday. Kevin OConnell discussing Jaden Daniels, to a certain extent, Drake May, and JJ McCarthy. So we opted to play that back just to listen back to it and listen to the cadence and the head coach's voice and, well, learn a little more about old JJ McCarthy.
Box.
What do we think about that, and good morning?
Good morning. The first thing that came to mind as I was listening to that clip again,
sometimes when somebody is speaking, you're talking to somebody on the phone. In this case, we are talking into microphones. People may be listening on the radio.
Yeah.
You can hear it in KOC's voice. He's smiling as he is talking about JJ McCarthy. He's excited about JJ McCarthy as a prospect. Is that the guy they ultimately draft? That remains to be seen, of course.
Well put.
The thing that stuck out to me early on, right out of the gates, while he's smiling about the idea of JJ McCarthy in purple, it's almost as if he had been reading or at least was very aware of the largest detracting commentary regarding JJ McCarthy. Because he kind of starts out right away with, he may not have had as many reps as other teams. He may not have put as many physical plays of XYZ on tape. But it was important for him right out of the gate to note the plays that he offered are pro level. The way that he played the game in Michigan was the way that you play the game in the NFL.
Yep.
Specifically, while some of the other guys you might talk about on their tape with all those reps and all those yards, well, a lot of them were bubble screens. So are there quarterbacks in the draft right now who have thrown more screens in the last year than J.J. McCarthy threw his entire career at the University of Michigan? So looking at those sorts of things. But the first thing that stuck out to me, he's excited about the idea of J.J. McCarthy. Then, of course, later on, noting that he's spending a few days with him. But it was if right out of the gate, he wanted to tell you that he may not have some of the physical stats that some of these other QBs have attained, and props to them, praise to them, absolutely. But in the end, when he had to throw the ball, when he had to do what a quarterback does, it was high level. It was something that I could work with, can work with, am interested in working with. And I am totally cool with that cat, that former Wolverine at the University of Michigan.
So the crumbs leading to the answer. A month from tomorrow, with the National Football League draft, first round, KFAN radio show at US Bank Stadium, Vikings.com for tickets. Maybe the belief, maybe when it all is revealed and everything is unfurled and decisions have been made and quarterbacks have landing spaces. Maybe JJ McCarthy looks wonderful in burgundy and gold.
I always love that one.
What? I mean, it got steamy. I didn't get to this yesterday, or maybe we did, but it got steamy in Orlando yesterday with Washington, like rumors being that Washington is dead set to pluck the quarterback who's comfortable under center. The quarterback who sells play action in a poor man's Matt Ryan-esque fashion. The man who delivers cold-blooded connections on third down against high-level corners in big-time games, no matter the pass rush, right up in his mug. It got steamy yesterday that Washington will take J.J. McCarthy with the second overall pick. And Robert Kraft, the owner of the New England Patriots, he got a little steamy yesterday, too, when he said, if I put on my fan hat, then, yeah, I definitely know that the New England Patriots need a quarterback. But I also know, and I'll insert this, as a high-end businessman for many, many decades, I also know there are going to be myriad desperate teams looking to get up to that 3. So we're open for business.
I love that.
So juicy right now.
You know, I didn't get a chance yesterday to hit on a particular text message as part of this conversation, but is there any idea with this steam with JJ McCarthy? Now again, the smile in KOC's voice, I could hear it, I could see it.
Same.
I could see the smile.
Same.
But one of the listeners actually texted in and was like, I'm kind of worried when everyone agrees. I'm kind of worried when everybody, I mean, Andrew Luck into the 2012 draft, everyone agreed that he would be the best option, not only in that draft, but maybe for drafts to come, and save for injuries and such in an early retirement. I think most people were right on an Andrew Luck.
Yeah.
But the idea of everyone agreeing that is leading to the steam, to the heat, to the boiling over of the positivity with JJ McCarthy was kind of giving at least one listener some pause.
Yeah.
But in the end, however this shakes out, if JJ goes too, well, shucks, we gotta pick between who? We gotta pick between Jaden Daniels and Drake May.
Oh no, not that. Anything but that.
And so the steamrolling that's taking place and all of that, but anybody that makes KOC smile, we are leaping with faith here that this guy is going to identify a QB that he can mold into what's best for this offense, best for this team moving forward. So leaping with faith with Kevin OConnell, I'm all in on that.
Well, the consensus angle of the Rube to the 64686 being like, I get concerned when everybody's all on the same page. That's the worst news the Chicago Bears have gotten all year.
I always love that one.
On with that Caleb Williams. And finally, Arizona is a major key here. And here's why. A, the general manager is comfortable working with Arizona. See the Josh Dobbs trade. Secondly, they own the 4 spot. All right? They own the 4 spot. It could go QB. But there are 4 about whom many seem to be chatting. But as I pounded on last week, Arizona has 6 of the top 90 picks in the draft, including 4 overall and 27 also in the first round. What do we think about Minnesota's 11th and 23rd and next year's first to Arizona for the 4th this year and the 27th this year? We got 3 first-round picks for you. You got 2 for us. You win. Or do you? Let's chew on that. This is 9 to noon at FM 100.3 KFAN. Thank you, TimberTech and TimberTech.com. What's on deck 9 to noon includes Florio, PFT, we, 9:35-ish. The New England Patriots play-by-play voice, Bob Sosi, will join us at 10. We have a Wolves segment at about 10:17, analyzing our lot in life. And Russo Radio takes off at 10:35. Amiable, affable, and voxing immortality with his SEC on CBS days, Minnesotan Brad Nessler graces the airwaves at 11 o'clock. Nordo produces, and I'm Paul Allen. This is your speculative leader, The Fan, and KFAN.com. My ding-a-ling, my ding-a-ling. Second segment, most weekdays. Oh, yeah. Vikes Bites provided by
Vikes Bites! Brought to you by Thousand Hills Lifetime Grazed Grass-Fed Beef. I love the product. I love the owner, the founder, Matt, and the work that they've done. Learn about regenerative agriculture and, frankly, shop online and have some elite beef. Go to thousandhillslifetimegrazed.com.
Thanks for putting Elite Vox, the amiable Brad Nessler, in the mix today at 11 o'clock. I mean, I and we and you know who Brad Nessler is. St. Charles, Minnesota, go crazy.
Correct.
Some of the games that he's called. Most know that December of last year, SEC on CBS, dead. Nessler and Danielson, SEC, done. It's going to ESPN. But when crafting the Nessler 11, I mean, that LSU team, I mean, I ain't breaking news here, but I just had to look back at it. That 2019 LSU team that went 15-0.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we're not elite college football minds. At least I'm not. Shouldn't speak for you. I mean, if there's a better college football team in the history of amateur level football, I need to hear about it. I mean, you got Burrow going play action to Clyde Edwards-Helaire, throwing deep to either Jefferson or Jamar Chase. Terrace Marshall with the Panthers, he was the bomb, too.
Oh, yeah, Terrace.
Holy cow.
Did
what
they
a
have
squad.
Thaddeus Moss at the time, too? Like tight end guy?
Might have.
He was there for a stretch. I don't know if it overlapped.
Right.
But no, that team was incredible.
Jeez.
Defensively, I don't know how hot. I can't rattle the names off like the elephants, but
Right.
goodness.
Brad Nessler, 11 o'clock. Don't miss it.
Ed Ingram on the team. What are you going to do? Ed Ingram, national champion, I believe.
Yeah.
Okay, Vikes Bites, brought to you by Thousand Hills. Thank you so much. And looking forward to Nestler as well, all-time Vox.
Kuiper has Jaden Daniels second to the Commanders.
And that feels consistent, right? You know, based on our conversation last segment, like the steamrolling. And every time we bring up JJ McCarthy, I appreciate whether it's Mike and Woodbury and a couple others. They just absolutely just loathe the idea of JJ McCarthy on this team, and it's how he was used. He played awful in the national title game. I don't know. What is it? I forget what his first name is. Edwards. Might be TJ Edwards, whatever his first name was. But he goes for 2 40-plus yard touchdowns in the first quarter, and suddenly you're in milk clocking territory in the national title game.
Yeah.
I don't know if you expected JJ McCarthy with that lead to throw it 40 times, whatever.
Didn't get him beat.
But all the same, the idea is, you know, if we're talking midway through the season, he's a second-round pick. And maybe it's because everyone has started looking at the tape and they realized, ooh, we got something here, or what it is. But the steamrolling, people are up and down on that. But Jaden Daniels to Washington, that's always... Are they going to take Drake May? They're going to go Sam Howell, former Tar Heel, and they're like, well, this ain't working out. We're going to send him... I think he went to Seattle, and we're going to replace him with the guy he replaced in North Carolina, and Drake May. That'd be interesting.
You have been dialed in via Khan's currency since Jerry Jeudy was moved to the Calm.
Yeah.
Now, if you're new to the radio show or new to the radio station, or you're listening worldwide over the vast and ever-expanding free iHeartRadio app, good morning. That's how we talk. So listen more, and you'll understand. The Calm is Kevin Stefanski. Steam is rumorville with speculation.
Maybe informed speculation.
Maybe. But, you know, we got, there's some cherry pickers out there, some 9 to noon cherry pickers who will take certain things from this radio show and put it in the Twitter sphere. So 9 to noon, to a certain extent, is recrafting the way it formulates thought and opinions and shares them. But Khan's currency.
And Khan is me.
Yep, Khan, that's right.
Not David Khan.
If you're new and you're listening in Turks and Caicos, A, we thank you for that. But B, Khan is the nickname for Eric Nordquist. Other nicknames include Mad Producer, Juice Box, and Stink.
I always love that one.
Stink lasted 10 seconds. Stopped in the hallway, producer eyeballs host, and says, I'm out on Stink.
I always love that one.
I said, I'm out on Stink too, Ben.
I always love that one.
But,
and then you touch my sides.
Khan's currency. Jeudy to the Browns, and more picks amassed by the Denver Broncos.
Like a 5 and a 6 or something like that.
Yep.
Couple picks.
Currency for the anti-Vike. The anti-Vike is Sean Payton, for those of you new to the bit. He's the anti-Vike, and there's no need to explain it. Well, Kwesi comes over the top with an open-ended straight, and he gets the right card, and he also gets the 23rd overall pick in the draft as part of Khan's currency. Because this is an arms race, because they're all looking for the right arm.
Yeah.
But it's also a Khan currency race.
Correct.
And I don't know, Arizona with 6 picks in the first 90 and 2 in the first round. Yozona, 11 and 23 in next year's first. But we get your 27th this year to bolster the defense, and we also get number 4.
Oof.
You can't do that without Khan's currency.
No, you can't.
The anti-Vike does not have Khan's currency.
Chip leader, Vikings. Khan's currency.
Kwesi, the chip leader, hitting all the open-ended straights, and he has Khan's currency.
And he can buy his way out of pots against the anti-Vike and several other teams that are in the mix right now. But speaking of that, PA.
Yeah.
What are Kwesi and KOC?
Let me get this out for 20 seconds.
Yeah,
it's a dreamscape. It's not going to happen, but it would be so cool.
No, I'm not going to accept Stink.
So the Vikings make that move with Zona, the speculative move that I'm just spitballing. And they get to the 4. Oh, but alas, a month from tomorrow, Marvin Harrison Jr. went where? Bob Kraft did what? With who? And we got the 4.
Oh, no.
Staring McCarthy right in the eyes. Anti-Vike panics.
Yeah.
Teeth are gnashing. He's gnashing of the teeth. He's tormented. There's tumult up in his covenant because he's the anti-Vike. And it's starting to get hot up in here. So he doesn't call us, we call him. And just rip him off. I mean, just, yeah. And then we take the 12, come back to the 5 with Harbaugh, get Drake May. Hey! And we got everything the anti-Vike has ever known. And he perishes under the river Euphrates, and we don't care about him again. But anyway.
What did George Payton do? What did George Payton do at some point in life? I mean, a karma convergence of, and you know him way better than I do, but I will tell you this, as the producer, as the juice box at the team facility, as the guy on preseason road trips, and everyone's kind of hanging out. It's preseason, nothing's on the line, having a beer and a sandwich at the hotel.
Too much time for Teddy.
George Payton is one of the nicest, coolest dudes that I've worked with in my nearly, 11 year, whatever the hell it is at the Fan.
Yeah.
He's awesome. Nothing has gone right for him in the city of Denver.
Yeah.
Nothing along the way.
He's surrounded by the anti-Vike.
It has been awful in terms of the run there. He wants to take a swing. You know, and that's the problem, too. He's going to fall on the sword. And Elway, he's the guy that wanted Russ Wilson.
Yes.
When the dust settles, it's going to be that Elway was the guy that put this in motion. He says, George Payton, you're the GM now, make it work. He makes it work, and then it's a disaster.
Yeah.
And then Elway's the guy that says, well, we need to figure out this coaching thing. This Nathaniel Hackett thing was a disaster, so we move on from him. You have to make the Sean Payton thing work. That's what's going to make Russ work. And so we make a mistake. That creates a hole. We have an opportunity to climb out of the hole. And you know what we said? We're actually just going to keep digging deeper. The Russ thing doesn't work out. The Sean Payton thing sucks. And now they're in a spot where he could potentially be ripped off by the franchise that he gave years to prior.
You're right about George Payton. I mean, wonderful, wonderful human being and incredibly smart and very, very good at what he does. But mysterious supernatural things change in lives when they associate with the anti-Vike. I'd like to tell more of this story, but I'll just end it like this. Even Judas at one point had good intentions.
I always love that one.
He's the anti-Vike, man. I don't like him. My daughter goes to college out there and it makes it hard to get to the facility. I can't go there anymore.
Well, maybe we'll get back to this later in the show, but I did want to run through, because what's going to happen here on Thursday night of the draft is the Vikings are going to make a move one way or another. They're going to get a QB. And my question is, whether it's to you, it's to those listening, what are fans doing? What's Kwesi doing? What's KOC doing? Everybody, what are you up to on Friday? And can you deal with the idea that you have no second or third round picks? Does the exhilaration of taking a QB on Thursday for Rubes, does that satisfy your draft thirst?
I got an idea. Now, the team, currently stands second and or third round picks this year. Say a move of some sort is made and they get into a position and they draft a quarterback. Let's say that quarterback for the purpose of speculation is Drake May. Okay. Well, now, while the personnel people, Kwesi, Grigson, and the vast and ever expanding staff, along with the coaches, well, they're going to be scheming and crafting and looking at players and trying to get back into maybe the third, something like that. Well, that doesn't mean that we have to do that. So you bring Drake May to the facility, you throw a freaking party in the field house.
I always love that one.
I'll MC that mug for free, and we'll interview Drake May for an hour while watching the draft, all the while knowing we somehow sniped the anti-Vike and got the last word.
I always love that one.
I mean, that's not a bad idea, actually. All right, Mike Florio, ProFootballTalk.com. He joins 9 to noon around the corner. Nordo produces. I'm Paul Allen. This is 9 to noon.
The captain.
There's something wrong with you.
Super Bowl, homeboy.
It was driving me crazy.
We don't play the PlayStation like that.
Good morning, Michael. How are you?
Hey, doing great. How are you?
Good. Mike Florio, preeminent with ProFootballTalk.com. Has been around more than a couple of decades, followed every step of the way by 9 to noon. ProFootballTalk.com. Mike's also an author. Father of Mine is his most recent book. Learn more about that at ProFootballTalk.com. And he also works with NBC's Football Night in America. I'm cool with the XFL kickoff bit. Are you?
Well, yes and no. And first of all, the most recent book is not Father of Mine. The most recent book is On Our Way Home. That's the Christmas book. But Father of Mine continues to be more relevant to the current calendar, and the sequel to Father of Mine is coming later this year. So thank you. And thank you for allowing me to co-opt the show to make a pitch for my own stuff on the side. As to the kickoff.
Hold on.
PA.
And good morning.
Good morning. And good morning. They are really experimenting with this, and this could go well, or this could go the way of Peter Brady's volcano, for those of you out there who are from my time frame when Marcia, or was it Jan, and her friends all got splattered with the gray lava from Peter's failed chemistry or science experiment. I like the idea, and here's what they won't say out loud, but I think this is what's at the heart of it. They started to pivot away from the traditional kickoff in 2010, 2011, after Kevin Everett, after Eric LeGrand, after catastrophic injuries happening during high-speed collisions on the traditional kickoff play. They are concerned that someone is going to suffer a broken neck and permanent paralysis or death on the field. Damar Hamlin directly resulting from a kickoff return play, because what happens is you have guys running at each other, they reach full speed, they dip their helmet instinctively, they collide, and you get maximum forces on that C4, C5 area in the cervical spine. They want to avoid that. That's why they have been dealing with the kickoff return by reducing the number of times it happens. It's the most dangerous play in the game, so let's just make it happen less often. Now they've decided, wait a minute, we can't continue to do this where there's no kickoff. Let's come up with a version of this that takes the high-speed collision out of the game. And that's what this does. With everyone packed in tightly, you don't have guys running full speed and making that, it's like Newtonian physics when you've got two separate objects going at maximum speed. It's like a fastball hitting a bat. You have the forces multiplied exponentially because the bat's moving one way, the ball's moving the other way, and when that collision happens, bad things can happen to the players. Now, let's see what happens. You get a guy who is a very skilled kick returner who has great vision and sees that opening when there's just one line to get through because everybody's packed together. I thought of you earlier today when we were doing it on PFT Live. And he's loose because he's going to be loose a lot. And the teams with the best kick returners are going to have great field position and score more points. And this thing is going to potentially be a major factor in the overall landscape of the NFL in 2024.
And so there are changes that are going to be taking place post haste. In other words, elevating receivers or DBs who can return off what you just said. But they're also going to need different personnel on coverage teams, especially. I mean, maybe more receivers, tight ends, running backs, and or DBs. I don't know. But there are going to be dramatic changes to personnel for kick coverage and kick return, don't you think?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a lot of linebackers on the coverage team who can, and who are adept at having the instincts to get to the ball carrier, get through the crack and get to the ball carrier and get him on the ground. I think we're going to see a massive overhaul of the bottom of a roster because now, and this is one of the reasons why they pushed it through yesterday, the teams want to know what we have to prioritize in the draft. And if you are a highly skilled kick returner, well, all of a sudden, you're more valuable to the National Football League. You go up in the draft boards because, hey, I need a receiver. Oh, this guy also runs a 4.3, and he's got 4 kick returns for touchdowns during his college career, whatever the case may be. That guy becomes more valuable. It's not a coincidence that former Vikings first-rounder Cordero Patterson, one of the all-time great kickoff returners in league history with a record all-time of 9 kick returns for touchdowns, he immediately signed with the Pittsburgh Steelers, just literally hours after this rule went through. There is value enhanced by the guys who can get it done. And I think what we're also going to see, and I'm thinking back to, this was probably before your time with the Vikings, there was a primetime game between the Vikings and the Chiefs. Randy Moss back deep to return the punt, scored a touchdown against Kansas City in their building. Vikings ultimately lost that game.
99.
But I think you're going to see more teams use highly skilled offensive players as kick returners because the potential for catastrophic injury is going to be lower because everything's packed together tightly. You're not going to have somebody running at you full speed and diving at your knee and blowing out your ACL.
And Kevin OConnell was on the radio yesterday, 9 to noon, and he spoke glowingly of quarterback Jaden Daniels, also JJ McCarthy, and Drake May, but seemed to say the least about May, which if you're Florio raised and trained and you're trying to weave your way between the lines, that might mean that's the one he wants.
Well, go ahead.
Well, no, draft night's going to be on draft night's going to be on fire, man. ProFootballTalk.com, the radio show, it's going to be on fire, man.
Well, you've got 5 or 6 quarterbacks, and nobody seems to know who's the guy after Caleb Williams. Is it Jaden Daniels? Is it JJ McCarthy? Where's Bo Nix fit in? Michael Penix Jr. is out there. Drake May is in the mix as well. I'm a firm believer that whoever lands with the Vikings is going to end up reaching his full potential, whatever it may be, because Kevin OConnell has already proven he can coax that out of whoever. When Nick Mullins throws for 400 yards in a game, that proves to you that Kevin OConnell is a new age quarterback whisperer, potentially another Andy Reid over time, where whoever you give him, he's going to figure out how to get the most out of him. And if I'm one of these guys coming out, and this is a point I've been making on PFT Live from time to time. If I'm one of these young quarterbacks, I'm looking around at my potential destinations. I'm looking at the wreckage of the 2021 draft, where you've got Zach Wilson, bust, Trey Lance, bust, Justin Fields, not really a bust, but when you get a 2025 sixth-round pick for a guy that you dumped 2 first-round picks into, you can't call it a success. Mac Jones, Pro Bowler who goes bust because the head coach decided to make a defensive guy the offensive coordinator after Josh McDaniels got a head coaching job. You stack all that together, it is a warning to any of these quarterbacks coming in that you better be proactive about where you're going. You know, there's a mindset out there that these guys just have to submit to the process, which I think is a load of crap. They shouldn't have to submit to anything. Their careers are riding upon where they go to start off their careers, because if you bust for 2 or 3 years, the sport moves on. You become a backup at best, and you got to earn your way back onto a field you never really did all that well on anyway. So my point is, if I'm any of these guys, I want to go to Minnesota and play for Kevin OConnell. And I think one of these guys is going to get very lucky to be the guy that ends up being tutored by Kevin OConnell and becoming a much better quarterback than he'd be on some of these other teams where the head coach is a defensive guy, the offensive coordinator, if things go well, is going to get hired to be a head coach somewhere else, and then you got to break in another one, or the offensive coordinator is not going to be good enough, and it's going to derail your career. So whether it's Drake May, Bo Nix, JJ McCarthy, Caleb Williams, who knows, stranger things have happened. Whoever it is, that guy is going to hit his ceiling playing with Kevin OConnell.
Florio.
Well, I mean, I'm not the first to say this, but Arizona is such a major key for the Vikings, for Denver, for the Las Vegas Raiders, and the wild card maybe in the top 10 looking to move up. And they have 6 of the first 90 picks, and they have 2 in the first round, 4 and 27. So, I went down the road this morning in the opening segment being like, I mean, to get to that 4 spot, to get one of those quarterbacks, the Vikings give Arizona 11 and 23 and next year's first round pick. In turn, they get the 4 spot for the quarterback and number 27 this year. So they have a first round pick deep in the first round. Do you think that would be fair equity?
I don't think you get the 27 back. I think you got to give the 23 in next year's first rounder to get from 11 to 4 this year because of the glut of highly regarded quarterbacks. In 2021, the 49ers had the 12th pick, and they gave up their next year's first rounder and the year after that first rounder to go from 12 to 3, plus a third round pick to go from 12 to 3. Yeah. To go to 11 to 4, I think you got to go 11, 23, and another first round pick, and the Cardinals keep 27. I think that happens. They may do some other weird stuff like the Vikings get the 27 but also give up something else, or where they some of these trades, it's like they do this clumsy grains of sand trying to balance out the scales and flip-flop a 6th rounder for a 7th rounder and a future 3rd rounder for a 4th rounder. I mean, it's crazy what they do to try to create the perception. They balanced it out very carefully. But, yeah, I think the Patriots at 3, the Cardinals at 4, possibly the Commanders at 2, possibly. If they decide they don't really love Jaden Daniels and his pro day workout is today, and there's somebody else out there that really loves Jaden Daniels, and if the Commanders think, okay, we could take any of these guys after Caleb Williams, we'll be content with any of them, we can trade back, add assets, get one of these other quarterbacks. If somebody really wants Jaden Daniels, or JJ McCarthy, if this notion that there's a lot of hype attached to him, that he's quote-unquote rising the boards, but it all comes down to who the Vikings really like, who they go get, and it's not in their interest to share any of that publicly because it complicates your strategic objectives if everybody knows what you're trying to do.
How about that Twitter poll and question that you posed yesterday? If your favorite team is looking for a new coach after this season, would you want Belichick? Reading from ProFootballTalk.com, the outcome was by more than 70% no.
Well, let me be clear on that. We did that during the 2023 season when it looked like he was going to be out in New England, and so it applied after 23. More than 70% don't want him because the whole point is, as he considers the media landscape, he needs to get himself rehabilitated from the standpoint of, will fans want him? Because if fans don't want him, it's tougher to get the owner to want him. This guy's going to be 72. How much time does he really have coaching the team? And if the fans aren't excited about this prospect, then what's the point? Let's go get somebody else to be the head coach. And I don't know if you've seen the Dynasty series, but he does himself no favors in that. I mean, he seems even more awkward and uncomfortable and standoffish than he ordinarily does. Like he's sitting there with his tie and suit on, and his neck, he's arched his neck back, and it just looks like he's either getting ready for or in the midst of receiving a prostate exam.
Oh, holy cow.
It took a turn, didn't it?
Yeah,
didn't see that one coming, did you?
Mike Florio can be a pain in the butt, but that's not taking place today. ProFootballTalk.com. Now, with New England...
Yeah, anybody out there in their 50s, you know what I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah.
Just hold your breath and count to 7, and it'll be over before you know it, but not nearly as soon as you want it to be.
Chevy Chase, Moon River. Patriots, their Vox Bob Sosi, by the way, on the show in about 15 minutes. Bob Kraft, paraphrasing, said, yeah, put on my fan hat, Pats need a quarterback, but I want to hear what desperate teams have to offer, too. He's a high-level businessman, obviously. The fearless Denver group is going to do whatever it takes to get to a certain spot, right?
It sure sounds that way. I mean, look, they decided to take $53 million of the $85 million dead cap charge for Russell Wilson this year. They could have taken 35 and change. They went with 53. That tells me that they might view this year as tanks for nothing, and maybe they go ahead and let nature take its course this year and try to get themselves in maximum position to get a franchise quarterback next year. Do they really want to trade future assets to move up, or would they just be content to ride this season out, take their medicine, and land in a spot where you naturally get yourself a top pick? And the problem for Sean Payton is he won't tank. He's said this before on PFT Live. When you do that, you create a culture that makes it impossible to reverse. You have to have a mindset that you're trying to win every game you can. The tanking has to happen in subtle fashion, like taking $53 million in cap charge when you only had to take $35 million. That's the kind of thing that sends the message that maybe they're not really prioritizing winning this year the way they should. So I don't know that they'll give up after getting burned by the Russell Wilson trade and giving up future draft assets to get him. Are they going to give up future draft assets to get higher in this year's draft? I don't know. I'll believe it when I see it. I think they might be inclined to ride it out with Jarrett Stidham. If an opportunity falls into their laps, so be it. But I don't sense them as being as determined as the Vikings are to move up. It sure seems like the Vikings are determined to move up.
PFT.
Hey, Michael, do you think this Ohtani situation has a chance to become the biggest pro sports betting scandal since, like, Shoeless Joe Jackson?
Well, only if it turns out that the interpreter was betting on baseball and they can tear down the excuse given by Ohtani that he was basically the victim of theft and the interpreter was doing all the betting without Ohtani knowing anything about it. I find that hard to believe. And here's the problem for Ohtani. He's locked himself into a story. When I was practicing law, I always wanted to lock the adversary into a story as early as possible, because then you go out and you see if the evidence supports the story, and if it doesn't, it's too late to change the story. You know, a lot of times what someone will do, they'll wait to see what all the facts are, and then they'll craft their story accordingly so it meshes with the facts. Ohtani has locked himself in. He's painted himself into a corner, and he's going to have a hard time getting out of that if the evidence ends up showing something other than what he said when he had his press conference, which really wasn't a press conference because all he did was read a statement and not take any questions. So
right.
I think that it's got the potential to be the first major gambling scandal of the post-legalized betting era, which I think is significant. And you've got other stuff going on. Jonte Porter of the Toronto Raptors under investigation by the NBA because he's had a couple of games recently where he made a quick exit and there was heavy action on his under for his various props, and something's fishy there. You know, it's hard to shave points when you're just one guy out of 5 or 9 or 11. But when there's major betting on individual statistical performance in a given game, that's when one player can really have an impact. And there's no way to impact it like making an early exit because you got the flu, or I have a pre-existing injury that's been aggravated, or to quote the great Rodney Dangerfield from Caddyshack, "Oh, my arm, it's broken."
Well, off this topic or on this topic, how does one track this? NFL player or whomever is set for, let's say, Football Night in America, Sunday Night Football, and wants to make a play. So gets one of his dogs to open a legal account in a state with legalized sports wagering and does it through said friend. How does the league or the bosses track that?
There's no way to track it. And that's what I think the heart of the problem is for the Ohtani case. In California, sports wagering is not legal yet. So the interpreter was using an illegal bookmaker, and it all kind of came to light that way. I don't know what the NFL can really do. Once you start getting removed from immediate family members, you get into friends, you can have the player who is bankrolling the operation, the friend is the one who's doing the betting, and you know what happens? The friend ends up having significant power over the player.
Correct.
If that relationship ever goes sideways, or if the player ever, or if the friend ever realizes how much power he or she has, that's when you start to get extortion and blackmail, and I'm going to go tell the NFL what you did if you don't, give me whatever money I want.
Hey, do you get to go to Brazil for the Friday night Eagles versus whomever game, September 6th?
No, I don't. There's no reason for me to go. I don't have a passport, so no. And we have a game on Thursday night. We'll be in Kansas City.
Yeah.
Chris Sims was talking about that earlier today. It's like, hey, Chris, I'm not aware of a direct flight from Kansas City to Sao Paulo. I think they're going to send us to Connecticut, Stamford, not Sao Paulo, for that duty on the first Friday night of the year. Historic game. Friday night. The NFL can do it because it's the first Friday in September, not the second Friday. As of the second Friday in September, the Sports Broadcasting Act of 1961 kicks in. No televised games for the NFL on Friday nights or Saturdays to protect high school and college football. For the first weekend in September, it doesn't apply. And look at that going forward. Any year where Labor Day falls in a way that first Friday and Saturday in September is coinciding with the start of the NFL season, I think you're going to see the NFL taking over more windows, just like Christmas. They said they weren't going to play on Christmas when it was on a Wednesday, and I immediately said that's baloney. They will, and they are.
Well, I mean, off that, when does the symbolic turnip run out of metaphorical blood with those Wednesday Christmas games? Are you kidding me with that?
Well, here's what's going to happen. Now, I don't know this to be a fact, but I suspect that they're going to carve those games. They're going to play 2 games this year on Christmas. They're going to carve it out of the normal package, and they are going to sell it to the highest bidder. And when you consider that Peacock paid $110 million for the Dolphins-Chiefs wildcard game, Amazon's going to pay $120 million this year, and probably as much or more in future years to stream the wildcard game. I don't know what NBC's paying for that Friday night game, but you're talking about captive audience. Christmas, last year they averaged 28.7 million viewers in the 3 games they did.
Wow.
I suspect they're going to go hat in hand to the networks and say, how much do you want to pay for that Christmas game? And they're going to give it to whoever ponies up the most money. And it probably would not be a shock if one of those networks is a streamer and the other one is a traditional over-the-air. I don't know this. I'm just spitballing.
Yeah.
But I could see Amazon digging deep for the opportunity, just like Black Friday. Everyone has their gift cards. Everyone got their money from Mama and Papa, and I'm going to get on Amazon. I'm going to watch this game, and I'm going to spend the money during the commercial breaks on all the ads that are specifically cultivated for me because they know everything that we have searched, and they are going to serve up the stuff that they think we want.
I have an idea to close. You and your son, young Alexander, perhaps you guys make it to the U.S. Bank Stadium game next season against Kirk O'Chains and his Falcons. I mean, we'll find 2 for you, and you know where they'll probably be, just to the left of me.
Can you get them to do it on a Thursday night? Thursday night, I can make it.
Well, I'll see what I can do, but I mean,
Thursday night or Monday night.
Yeah.
We thought about flying up for the Monday night game last year, the Bears game right after Thanksgiving, and thank God we didn't.
Yeah.
Because that was a crap show.
If it's Thursday or Monday, Kirk O'Chains at U.S. Bank Stadium against Flores defense, I mean, that sounds good enough to eat.
That would be good. Let's see who the quarterback is before we get too far down that path. And also, another must-see game not involving the Vikings directly, when Kirk O'Chains meets his old buddy Mike Zimmer.
Oh, wow.
Oh, baby, double A gap blitz up the wazoo in that game.
All right, you're the very best. Call you next week.
Bye.
Mike Florio, ProFootballTalk.com. PFT, yeah, we. The Patriots, you say. They could be open for business. Their play-by-play voice is Bob Sosi, and we'll chat draft and Pats with the Vikes next.